How long has he been playing statue?
Couple hours now. Same look Rory gave me.
All things wise and wonderful.
We're in trouble.
Is he dead?
David, there's somebody outside.
Military started shooting town folk.
We gotta get out of here, guys!
Crazies, also known as you driving through San Francisco after the Giants lost. But, that's if you live in California. But, you can also say this movie is pretty much like, Baltimore or San Francisco or even like Los Angeles in some ways. So, well, but hopefully like people aren't actually trying to kill you. So this movie is a remake of the 1973, I believe, movie of the same name from George A. Romero, where it was, I think it was right after Dawn of the Dead. And it was basically a movie that was like, okay, it's not a typically great movie, but the premise works. So let's see what we can do to basically bring it into the modern era. And, let's see what we can do with it. And one thing about this movie that I wish had more of was character development. But I think the character development actually worked in ways, because this is a horror movie where you actually, care about the characters. So but this is also something, different from, it's not a typical zombie movie. This really isn't a zombie movie. It's a survival movie. Because not only are the characters running, past the crazies who aren't really that much in the movie, they're getting through the military and the government, which, in any typical horror movie, they're not good. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoy this movie. I also liked how it wasn't like a typical, zombie movie where if, like you clearly know who's going to get infected from like a nosebleed or like blood is like coming out of their nose or coming out of their eyes or their ears or anything like that. This one is kind of like a hidden in plain sight kind of thing. Or, it's like if you kind of lose your temper, it's like you could be infected, which I like that. Because a lot of horror movies, with a lot of horror movies, there's two types of, characters. There's the characters that you don't like at all and will just start to turn on each other, and which then makes them all unlikable anyway. Or there's the movies where, in the beginning, you either get some character development or not at all. But then once they're given the hand that they're dealt with, you're just along for the ride and you just want to see them survive all of this. Another movie that I think does this very well also is Slither. Where in the beginning, you do get some character development and, you're given all these characters and then it's basically like a no holds bar. Like you don't know who's going to live and who's going to survive this. This is kind of one of those same situations where you're just like, you don't want any of these people to die because you've gotten used to them. So main premise of the movie is it's the small town, pretty much like a basically like not really a shanty town, but it's more like a town where like nothing happens. Like think of Hot Fuzz, like think of like that, where they pretty much win like Village of the Year every year because they're killing people so think about that, but without the Village of the Year and killing people. But yeah, it's just one day, just a man walks onto a baseball field where a bunch of kids are playing baseball and just has a shotgun. And, it's just like, you think it's just a crazy man who, it's just a man who's just lost it, just snaps one day. But then when they actually look closer, it's more than that. It's an actual like infection. It's a disease that spreads across the town. So then like I said, it becomes a survival horror movie. And you just want to see these people not only get out of the situation, but you just want to see them live. Because, everything that's shown to you is just so crazy. You just need to see them live. So, yeah, like I said, they're not really the actual crazies or the townspeople are in the background. They're mainly in the background. I mean, yeah, you do see them every now and then, but they're mainly in the background, which I like that. I liked how they even though it was kind of like they're taking a back seat in their own movie, but they were still there. They were still they were very heavily there. They were used to be in the beginning, and then the second act is them mainly taking a seat, and then the government shows up, and then the third act, it's pretty much both of them. It's both the government and the crazies. So I like the way this movie was. The main problem I had was character development. I wish there was a little bit more, but that's ultimately fine. But the biggest one I had is a lot of horror movies do this. A lot of jump scares, which I don't mind the jump scares that like in like the original Halloween where Sheriff Brackett pops up behind Dr. Loomis, but there's no sound. It's like that's what a jump scare is supposed to be. But a lot of like the PG-13 teen horror movies that are easily made to make a quick buck, they just use the loud sounds to scare you. They use the cat that pounces. So this movie doesn't use that to the extreme, but they do kind of use the sounds a lot, but most of the time when they use it, they actually use it kind of effectively. So it's not that bad, but I just wish that it was a little bit used less. Another thing I got to point out is the special effects. There is like CGI, some CGI in the movie, but it doesn't really kick in until the third act. But like pretty much all the crazies and all the deaths, it's all practical. It's all practical effects. It's all like makeup, and they actually look like what you would look like if you like got really angry one day. And I've heard some people say they look dehydrated, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that kind of looks like it. But overall they look scary, and I think the movie was very effective. And I also liked how they don't explain how this disease started. With like Resident Evil, it's like they drop you into this and then they explain it like, oh yeah, they just decided like, oh, a chew, and then it got out. But with this, they don't explain to you how it spread and anything like that. But if it is this kind of like little town, I'm half expecting it to be like people craved Mountain Dew a little too much, and it just started an entire uprising, and then just people just went nuts for it, kind of like Tennessee from Zombieland, where he's like, I'm gonna put down a zombie and then find a Twinkie, and then gets really upset where he can't find any more Twinkies. So it's kind of like that. But I'm waiting for the sequel where they ask people like, oh yeah, what would you do for a Klondike bar? So I'm waiting for the sequel for that. But yeah, overall, I think this was a good remake. Little problems here and there, but I think overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it gets a grade. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I can't wait for the Klondike Bark sequel. So, looking forward to that.